you say you will when you won't. Oh, baby, do, baby, when you don't. Let me know, honey, how love feels. Is the truth now? Is love real? Honey, don't.
I'm Tom Remington. You've tuned into another episode of Open Air with Tom Remington. I'm glad you could join me. Let's see, this morning, there's so many things going on. But this morning, do you listen to talk radio much? I'm a fan of talk radio, but I don't spend a lot of time when I'm in the car. If I'm driving across town, or actually, what I listen to it the most is I usually make at least 2 trips a year by car from Florida to Maine and Maine back to Florida. And that's about 30 hours one way, and during that time I usually, have the radio on, and so I'm tuning into a lot of talk radio. So I hear a lot of different people on talk radio. And at different times. Some of these guys are pretty good. I enjoy talk radio. I think talk radio has its place. God knows it's probably saved a lot of the Republican Party, the conservative movement, and that sort of stuff. But I don't want to get into that. What I was going to talk about a little bit is to be I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on. I don't know anything about talk radio because I've never really done it. But I am a listener, and without these radio hosts, having listeners, they're out of business essentially. So I'm critiquing a little bit. But some of these guys are good because when you're listening to talk radio, you're using your ears, and therefore you have to envision things in your mind. And a good host will do that for you. They will say things, they'll be descriptive enough so that they keep your interest, keep you moving forward, yet allow you the time to formulate these images in your head so that you can put this all together. But some guys are awful at it. And but they keep doing it. And some of them have a good audience, but first of all, most of these talk shows are 3 hours in length, right? And so 3 hours, so you break the 3 hours down, and I sort of did this one day, and the actual amount of time that these guys talk works out to maybe 20 minutes per hour. So in a 3-hour show, they're actually only talking to their audience for an hour. And with most of these people, a good part of that time, they spend taking phone calls. And, the phone calls, somebody calls up and they start to ask a question, and some of these radio hosts will cut them off, and they go off on a rant, and then they hang up on them, and, and it's like, why would anybody call into one of these shows? They're not going to, But anyway, the other day I was traveling across town, and there was I won't say names and radio stations, that sort of. It doesn't really matter. If you listen to talk radio, you're the one that has to decide whether the content is worth listening to and coming back to. And so that's your decision, not necessarily mine, and everybody has something, totally different they want to hear. But this one guy, and he does this, he's a brilliant guy. He really is. He's very well versed on a lot of different subjects, and he will let you know. He's got a pretty big ego, and he likes to try to impress people with that. But every once in a while he gets onto one of these things where, and the other day it was about. Did you hear the story about the guy who tried to blow up the was it some Saudi meeting or whatever it was, and he had the bomb shoved up his butt? Okay, well, this guy got a hold of that story about the bomb up the guy's butt. Well, it's kind of like potty humor. After a while, it's like, okay, give it a rest, will you? Well, this guy, and it wasn't just this thing. He's done it before. It's like you tell somebody a story. Okay, if I'm telling you that story, it's did you hear just like I just did? Did you hear about the guy that And I might tell you the details of, a little bit about the story, but essentially the meat and potatoes of the story is the guy had this bomb shoved up his butt. And, we don't have detection devices for that yet. Excuse me. So as a radio talk show host, how many ways do you spend telling people and describing to them about a bomb being shoved up somebody's rectum? Really, it's like, okay, I get it. I have the picture. You don't need to carry on that way. And so that was, really kind of, and I couldn't even do it justice, and I'm not even going to try. And the guy was just, he was trying very hard not to get vulgar, although I've listened to this guy before, and he does, he pushes that envelope pretty strongly about, being a little bit vulgar in the things that he says. But, like I said, some of these guys are great, and, they do that. I've done some interviews myself with some of these people, and I've done a couple of interviews with Jim Slinsky, the Outdoor Talk Network. Jim's fantastic, and I consider it a complete honor, if he called me up and, told me it was time to do another interview. And, he'd say, hey, let's do another interview, and I'd like to talk about blah-de-blah-de-blah. And, with Jim, when you get on, we pre-record the show. He doesn't do it live with me, so he pre-records it. And, but, as a host, he knows what he's talking about. He's not gonna call you and ask you, about doing an interview and he don't know anything about it. That would be really stupid. But he's a very gracious host. He does a great show, and he doesn't interrupt you all the time. He lets you complete your thought, but yet he has a very tactful way of keeping the interview on task and that sort of stuff. So, just bear that in mind the next time you turn on the radio, if you listen to talk radio, and see if you can pick out if some of these guys are good at what they do, and they move on, and they keep covering material, they keep your attention, and that's, or do they just keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over? A lot of them are like these little dogs. You've seen these dogs, they just bark all the time. I think they bark just because they like to hear themselves bark, and most of these dogs are the little ones, kind of like the little dog syndrome. And so this guy, I kind of picture him as being like a Shih Tzu or something, sitting in front of his microphone, going, "Hey, the guy had a bomb shoved up his butt. I mean, can you imagine having a bomb shoved up your butt?" And on and on he went. But anyway, we had some fun with that today, and I hope I'm not going to sit here and keep carrying on and be a hypocrite about the whole thing. But hey, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you at another time right here on Open Air with Tom Remington.
How come you say you will when you won't? Oh baby, do baby when you don't. Let me know, honey, how love feels. Here's the truth now, is love real? Honey, don't